Hey guys, I'm back. So I met a soul who was unalived. Yeah. So I'll explain. I believe I was able to break her out of a continuous loop of that particular experience, but we'll get to that point in a minute or three. So I'm listening to my binaural beats. Now, this time I was listening to 40 hertz. That's a pretty fast binaural beats. Usually I would listen to 7 hertz or 10 hertz, something to that effect to kind of keep me a little bit more on the lucid side. But I listened to 40 hertz. And I was listening to Robert Monroe's the Gateway Project, Wave 3, yes. But I kind of layered them together. Now, I come out of the body and I notice I have the covering over my face. I'm inside of a hallway of some house. So I remove the covering from my face, little veil or whatnot. And I noticed that there was a doorway at the end of the hall. A light was on as well, and somebody was shooting a gun. Now, the guns on the in within the astral plane, or at least the gunshots that I have seen on the other side, looked like light pellet type things, like sparklers. So when you hear the shot pop pop like that, you'll see the gun sparkler light shot. I don't believe that there are actually any real bullets because, well, obviously we're in the astral plane, and you know it's mainly energetic. It's not compressed enough for that type of thing. But I will say this: I was not afraid. Well, this time I wasn't scared. Now, before I had an out of body experience in the past, and I entered some kind of a store. Now, I was just in there, just looking around, and then all of a sudden, there were these figures that just moved from behind the like these counters and the aisles with guns, and then all start shooting. Like, I'm like, what are you shooting at me for? But they were shooting, and I saw the same light pattern and the same sound, but I was scared, and I picked up speed, and they got a lot of loose out of me that day because I was definitely fearful. But it did make me make me aware of the gunshot. So I'm making y'all aware when you see gunshots like that, the little light pellet looking things. Don't be scared because I came out of my body and came back into my body, and I'm thinking like, what the hell was I scared for? Why am I running? You know, so now I get it. I know, but I'm not scared no more. But anyways, so I see the light, the gunshots. I go towards the door and I go through the door. To be honest, I do believe that was a mechanism to keep me away from that area, and possibly to keep me from being able to get this other soul out of the loop, out of whatever loop she was in. But so when I go through that door, I see, well, I move further into the room, and then I turn around and I see that there's a brown couch, and there's a man next and a little boy. I believe that they were brothers because somehow I just know that they were brothers. One of them, the older guy was maybe in his 30s, or he 20s or 30s, and the boy looked like he may have been 4 or so. He was a young brother. But I come in the room, I don't see any guns, and the room is pretty much clear. And then the boy and his older brother, they kind of like sink into the couch. And so I'm like, well, whatever, I don't care. and I see a a doorway, but beside the doorway is a mirror. Now y'all know how I get with these mirrors. I didn't want to go through the mirror at that time. In fact, I just wanted to see what I looked like for whatever reason. I just, again, I let my higher self pretty much make the decisions on what I'm gonna do. And this time, there was no going through mirrors. I look in the mirror and I see my light. But I was wearing a red vest, and the vest was covering my light. It was the light that was in the center of my chest, like right about here. Okay. And usually when I can brighten it up, and I brightened up and everything, and it was, usually, well, at least over the last few times that I've come out of my body, I had not been able to see that light. But this time, of course, there was a mirror, I could actually see it. And not only that, well, the red vest helped to cover the light, because I believe eh, I wasn't supposed to be, my light would have maybe attracted unwanted attention. Let's just say that. So, so the red vest covered me. And then I leave, I walk out of the house, and I'm in this, I'm outside in the neighborhood. Of course, it was dark. Um, Usually, if when I come out of the body, it's late at early morning, 4 to 5 in the morning, and usually it's dark in the physical world, which means chances are I'm going to show up on in the astral plane, and it's going to be dark there too, unless I'm the light, and I'll cause it to look like it's daytime. But in this case, I'm wearing a red vest, so it's dark there too. And but I'm able to see. And there are these houses. It was a nice little neighborhood, and I decided, okay, well maybe I can fly. So I decided to try to fly, and it was very difficult for me to lift off. And as a matter of fact, the moment I lift off, I start to float backwards. And I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on? So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm not about to waste or expend energy trying to fly when obviously I'm supposed to be going somewhere. So in this case, I didn't see any guides. It did not feel like I was being pulled either. So I say in my mind, I say, just take me where I'm needed. And that gave my higher self basically the permission to just take the reins of my traveling, my transport. And sure enough, I started to fly backwards. I flew faster and faster and faster. And I probably could have turned around, but I just decided to just not, and just see where I'm gonna land. And sure enough, I land in a it's not a garage, it's in the driveway of a house. It was a brick house. So the driveway has it was a two-car garage, and it was they were covered, garages that, and they were closed at the time. But the house was the brick house actually began a little bit to the right. So brick house, it had a couple of windows in it, and even further down there was a staircase that led up to the door. Now, I see a man peeping out of the house. He did not give me any type of weird vibes, but he just looked out the window, and kind of was almost like he was giving the girl that came out permission. Like, go ahead, go see him. And I got the vibe that it's possible that we knew each other. I don't know if I was, a boyfriend, or I don't know. I didn't recall her, but she knew me. But it just kind of gave boyfriend girlfriend vibes. Feel me? And so she's out. She had to have been late teens, early 20s max. Maybe 18, 19. I don't know. But she was young, comes out of the house, and she runs up to me. She says, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're here." And I say, "What's going on?" Because she was distraught. She was like, I'm just this it's a lot." And I said, "You okay?" And she's like, "Never that, never that." Now, also, I'm thinking in my head, like, I wonder what the hell is going on, because eh, there's a limited amount of time that I'm going to be out of my body, and I wanted to help her, but the time didn't allow for that. The moment she says never that, I'm like, oh my, okay, so what's going on? So she says he had a knife, and he held it to my throat. He had a knife and held it to my throat. And I'm like, and she does this. And I'm like, okay. So she was ultimately killed. I realized at that point that it's a very strong possibility that she was in a loop of sorts. She sees me. She tells me that somebody, put a knife to her throat. She didn't say that he actually slit her throat, but yeah, I can put two and two together. So I reach out and I grab her and I hug her and we embraced for a little while. I don't know how long, but I just held her for a while and she held me. Um, and I just let her let go first. And, eventually she let go. And I went back to my body at that point, which kind of made me think, how many black females are there out there that was, that died because of something like that? She had, I want to say, shoulder to back length hair, although there may have been extensions, I don't know. She was about 5'6" or 5'7". She was relatively thin. I mean, not skinny. She was a nice size, but in the astral plane, you can kind of take on whatever form you see fit. So I don't know if, in fact, whatever size she was the size that she was when she passed. So I look up information about young black females who were killed basically by, you know, had their throat slit. And I found there were just a few, oddly enough. Now, I know there's probably a big database somewhere with, different people that died in different ways. And likely there are more females out there. But I did find one that looked very similar to the girl that I saw in my out of body experience. I don't know if in fact it was her or not. So I'm not gonna go down that route with this, but it's possible that it could have been. Now I don't know the reason why I would need to know that information, but for some reason I just wanted to know. Come to find out, when we touch people, we break loops. We essentially create a circuit between ourselves and the other person. And this is not just talking about integration. Integration aside, whenever your consciousness or awareness comes in contact with another soul, it's like a connection between you and the other soul. There's a lot of times while we can read each other's thoughts on the other side as well. Now, yes, there is a possibility for us to cloak your thoughts, but in general, we can hear each other's thoughts. In this case, when we embraced, I broke a loop that she was experiencing in that house. I don't believe the guy that was in the house was the person that was doing whatever it was he was doing to her. As a matter of fact, the guy that probably did that was um, already is probably still alive or somewhere else. However, a person that dies like that experiences thought forms. Their brains can ultimately, their brains, they can create a thought form and a dimensional space of whatever it is that they were experiencing when they died. And it can create a loop of sorts. So in her case, I don't believe she had enough energy, or she just couldn't help herself at the time, which required me or another aware soul to be able to come and help break her out of the loop. You feel me? See how that kind of, so, but she did have enough wherewithal to know I was there to help. I came to the house. She ran out of the house and we hugged and she told me what was going on. And so now, because that loop is broken, she probably could go back in that house and all of that stuff, because it loses when your awareness is on something else. The original thing that you were aware of or concentrating on, it loses the energy. So it de-renders as a projection. The that projection will be de-rendered. You feel me? So that's what most likely ended up happening. And I believe I was able to help her move on. I don't know why I went back to my body right at that time, but there are no coincidences. So I believe it was just, that's all that was needed. Because to be honest, if I had stayed, it's a possibility I probably would have started asking questions and just messing things up, get into my head and trying to analyze and trying to do things. I could do all of that outside of the astral plane. In the waking life, it's different, because when you do that in the astral plane or on the other side, you know, it can kind of mess up some things. You can give off energies. You can create thought forms. You can create dimensional spaces that can screw things up. So after the loop is broken, bam, I leave, and then she is off to do whatever she needs to do. Now, I do believe that this young lady may have been a cluster member. It's a very strong possibility. I do not recall seeing her on the beds that I saw before. And of course, I guess she wouldn't have been in that area when I saw my cluster members, um, because obviously she was in the loop. But yeah, it just took on a different vibe, helping a soul come out of a loop and things like that. I know it alerted the bureaucracy, and it wasn't long after that. That is when I had that other out of body experience that I told you about in the last video, and they tried to put the tracker and all that stuff. So it's like I believe I made her or helped her become more aware, and that's just kind of my little shtick at this point, my little thing that I do. Um, and I'm very happy to do that. However, I'm needed. That's all I say now. At this point, I'm just, when I come out of the body, especially in a situation like that, and I was highly lucid at the time, um, just take me where I'm needed. Just and I can help. However, I can help. And so, yeah, 40 hertz binaural beats and listening to that gateway process, that's my way. And everybody has their own ways. There is no set way to come out of the body. I know a lot of people like to do a certain thing, but if you notice, if certain things don't work, try something different. I'm going to help out a little bit more. I am going to come out with another video about about out of body experiences and how to have them, what I do typically. I know I leave little nuggets here and there, but the next video that I leave about that, I'll explain a little bit more in detail. I'm pretty sure you guys would want to know, and I don't mind sharing. Also, if you would like to reach out to me, I do have in the description, I try to leave my email address. Sometimes I just forget, because to be honest, this YouTube channel, while of course I wouldn't mind, I love that I'm getting subscribers, those people that are subscribing. I really appreciate you, all of you, love you all. Um, It's about helping people to understand through my experiences on the other side. You feel me? And I believe that my light will just simply shine through. As a result of that, people will want to join and subscribe to this channel, to Insights with Tony. That's all it's about. I'm not asking for anything, you know. I'm just here to help. And yeah, so I'm getting emotional. Anyway, until next time, y'all, I'm just glad I could help.